Hey guys, it's Jesus McDonald here. I have a special guest, Sam Moss, who is also a WordPress website developer. He runs a WordPress website development company in New York. And I brought him on to the show because I wanted to talk about some frequently asked questions that we get from B2B marketers and honestly that we see on the web, LinkedIn as well too, when it comes to how to improve your lead conversions, your website traffic, um, you name it. I mean, there's just a lot of questions around that. So I have some handpicked questions. I thought it might be great to just pull in another WordPress website guy and just kind of go through it together. And I hope this is really insightful and brings you guys value and implementation, since a lot of companies right now are looking into website redesigns, which is about that time for a lot of people. So, Sam, welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me once again. It's always good to join you, talk about industry stuff, as we both like to do. So thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Let's dive right into the questions. Question number one that I have is, how should the messaging on your website be framed? Should it like educate prospects on on what your company does, or should it do something different?
Um, it it depends is really what it is, and it boils down to the intent of your leads and prospects, which is
Mm,
why you need to know who your customers are and who you're going after. So your ICP. An example: a friend of mine owns a dumpster company, and
interesting.
it's a small business. They're doing really well, and their company has been on a spreadsheet. A Google sheet for years. So all their customers, they put all their information in there, and they're not
Wow.
familiar with what a CRM is. Okay, so their level of intent is not very high when it comes to going to Google and
Mm,
looking for a CRM. They don't really know, so they're looking to be educated on what the industry even can handle or what can be done for them. So
mm,
their intent is way different than a B2B company. So for us, we sell websites to B2B companies, and when we were selling websites to SMBs, it was a lot different language because their intent is way different. They're brand new to websites. So we have to educate them on our website of, oh, here's what a website's going to do for your company or your business. Here's how to make you stand out online. And we had to be very shallow with our marketing because they're not familiar with what we're selling. And the same thing goes for the B2B SaaS
mm,
industry. So fast forward to today, when we're talking to VP of marketings and directors of marketing, they understand what a website does. That's not what they're coming to our website to figure out. So we don't need to tell them, oh, this is going to boost the conversions for your company. I mean, we can include that, but that's not what it's about. We need to prove to them that we're different than the other website developers because in their eyes, all websites do the same thing. It doesn't matter from a developer standpoint which one does a different work. It's
mm.
all pretty close industry wide, and that's what it boils down to: is knowing the intent of who you're talking to, where they're at in the buyer journey, and then catering your messaging to that.
I love that. Now let's talk a little bit about copywriting. More specifically, the messaging for your website. Should the messaging on your website include industry lingo or not? Because I run into a lot of B2B, you know, companies that their website, it just seems like it's a filler. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, I used to preach, and you could probably scroll back in my LinkedIn posts and find that you should never put industry lingo on a website, and it's a huge turnoff to customers and prospects and leads. But it all goes back to knowing who your ICP is once again. So I have changed my stance since then.
Hmm,
And here's why. So when it comes to industry lingo, if you know who your customer is and they know the industry lingo and it's what they use when they're talking about your industry, then definitely include it on your website. You don't need to overload and pretend like you're smarter than you actually are, but it might be comforting to them to know that you speak that language. You are fluent in your industry. You know what you
right.
have going on. For example, a cybersecurity company, maybe they offer security solutions or something. If they know who they're talking to, they can drop some of that lingo in. For me, I don't need to know what a cybersecurity company does. I don't need to know the lingo because I don't really need them for what I do. So I might go to their website and say, "Oh my gosh, what a confusing company. Why would they ever put that language on their website?" Well, they're not trying to sell to me. I'm not their ideal customer. They probably
It's
know
true.
exactly who they're talking to, and that's why they put that lingo. So there needs to be a balance. You need to do your research and know who you're talking to, and ultimately avoid it if you can, and don't use it to make yourself sound smarter than you are. But if it's there to give yourself credibility because the people you're talking to understand your industry already, then by all means include it on your website.
Yeah, I love that. The ICP is huge. You're right. Especially if it's like, hey, I don't need to know about this. I already know this software. They're not really targeting me.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they're a deal client, but I may not be. So that
Mhm.
makes a ton of sense. Now let's talk a little bit about funnels, right? When it comes to marketing, it's all about the funnels. Well, not really, but it's a big part of marketing. It's, we talk about sales and marketing going hand in hand, and lead conversions, and what stage is the lead in when it comes to the funnel. I want to ask a specific question, like, why shouldn't we force prospects into our ideal funnel? If we have an ideal funnel, the way it works, step one all the way to step 12, for example.
Yeah. Um, you have to keep in mind what's easiest for you is not always
Mhm.
easiest for your prospect or lead. So,
Mm,
for example, let's say we have this funnel set up on your website and it populates your CRM perfectly. You know, you get the lead in HubSpot, you get the intent, and man, that is beautiful. It looks amazing and it's scalable, right? What happens if that person just wants to call you or shoot you an email or talk to a rep in like a chat bot or something? You need to make the
right.
experience as frictionless as possible. An example: this wasn't necessarily a funnel that I was shoved into, but it goes back to like making the experience as smooth as possible for a leader prospect. Um, I don't remember why, but I was looking for some manufacturing companies here in upstate New York, and I stumbled across a website, and the first thing they made me do was fill out a CAPTCHA before I could even see the website. And that just took me,
Really?
oh yeah, I was shocked.
I
I couldn't
never
believe that they
experienced that
made me do
before.
that. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. And I'm like, seriously, you're going to make me do this? I did have the patience, I don't know why, to complete it and get into the website. Not that it was really worth seeing that website because it was pretty outdated, but I still couldn't believe that they made me fill out a CAPTCHA to make sure I wasn't a bot. Like they had thousands of leads coming, and that's why. And it just goes back to making the experience as frictionless as possible. So if you're shoving your prospects into your funnel because it's what makes your HubSpot CRM look good, then you might want to reassess and give some other options, um, just to make it easy. Makes the experience no friction. That's what your goal should be every single time.
Love the no friction. Now, what are your thoughts on only having a form on your website?
Yeah, I'm pretty against just simply having a form on your website. And I have heard the argument the other way where, look, we don't want to be getting phone calls. We're not capable of answering the phone all day, or
Right.
we don't want to be sitting on email. And I get that. But maybe even just one other option. Maybe
Mm,
it's a chat bot. I mean, we have Drift on our website. It's You can get the free version. I'm kind of a cheapskate when it comes to that, so we pop the free version on our website. It works great.
yeah.
Us personally, we have where you can email us, call us, fill out a form, and like I said, the bot. But if you don't have the capacity to handle all of that, I understand. But there should be more than just one simple option. And again, you don't want to be forcing people into your ideal funnel with
Mm,
a form. They might not like that. An example of this is we had a lead. They were looking for a website developer here on the East Coast, and they reached out, or he had done research and found about 200 companies. Why he went into that depth of trying to find website developers is beyond me. But we made it into like the top 16 that he actually sent
wow.
details of their project to, something like top dozen or something like that. And I asked him, I'm like, why is it that you even reached out to us? I was really curious because that was pretty impressive to me to know that we even made it in the
Mm,
top whatever. And he said, oh, you had an email address on your website. I hate filling out forms. we would have never ever gotten that lead if we had shoved them specifically into a form. We gave them one other option. It's not that hard for us to check email. We can handle that.
Right.
And he was able to send all the details through email because he couldn't even fit it in the form. He had it all prepared, ready to send it to companies. So
Right.
only having a form on your website is probably hurting you more than you realize.
That's interesting about the email part too, because the form pretty much works as an email,
Yeah.
but the way your prospective client is thinking is this is just going to go to some random person and it's going
Mhm.
to take forever to get to me. So I'd rather just have an email address. I've never experienced that before when it came to feedback from prospective clients.
Yeah.
The feedback I've gotten is I'm glad you had the 650 number on your website because I'm so tired of filling out forms. I don't want to be spammed with
Yeah.
newsletters and all this junk I didn't sign up for. And I'm like,
Mhm.
one, it's sad that that's like the standard or that everyone assumes they're just going to get into a newsletter or offers
Yeah.
or promotions. And it's sad too that companies do throw leads into that without their permission, which I believe is illegal
Yeah.
to do.
Probably.
So,
Yeah. Something like
but so many people do that though.
yeah.
It's just wrong.
Mhm.
So that's really great insight into that prospective client that you mentioned.
Mhm.
Now, where's the balance when it comes to tracking attribution?
Mhm. As marketers, you and I own our own business. Marketers are listening to
Mhm.
this. It's really easy to get obsessed with where did this lead come from. I've been really guilty of that as well. And to an extent, it is important, especially if you're demand gen. You want to know what's working, what's not. But overall, you should know that if a lead comes to your website, fills out your form, and you don't know exactly where they came from, you should just be assured that it's proof that your brand worked from top to finish, from top to bottom. An example of this is we had someone come to our website. They filled out the form for a website. They had some information on their project. I looked them up on LinkedIn. Turns out I was connected to them, so I immediately thought, "Oh, this is must be because of the content I'm putting out." I tried to see if they connected with me first, if I connected with them first, and I couldn't figure it out.
Mm.
So I could say, oh, the lead came from LinkedIn, but I don't know if it was because why did they connect with me? Did they hear me on a podcast? Did they come across our podcast and decide to reach out? And then
Right.
that led from seeing content over and over for a few months to finally going to our website. Maybe they had been to the website 3 or 4 times before they ever filled out the form. So there's no way to actually track the first touch attribution. But what I realized is, like I said a couple seconds ago, this is proof that the system worked, that our brand was consistent from top to finish. Or whatever it was, maybe it was a podcast or something, led to LinkedIn, which led to our website. And ultimately, that was enough for me.
Yeah. Can I add something to that too?
Yeah, go for it.
One of the things is, I've used HubSpot a lot as a digital marketer, and one of the things that I know is technology can only take you so far. Like I'm saying HubSpot. I don't know how the other software companies work in regards to marketing and sales, but you're right. It's very broad. Like the source came from Google, and I'm
Mhm.
like Google Maps, Google
Right.
Search. Like Google owns a lot of stuff, like YouTube, and you know one thing that I do is I always ask the lead when I get on the phone with them, how did you hear about us?
Mhm.
Right. And their answer goes way further than Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it goes to your point that, in the pre-qualification process, that should be, one of the top questions
Mhm.
to ask them and to make sure the sales rep writes that down
Mhm.
and inputs it into the CRM
Yeah.
because on a quarterly basis or, at the end of the year, you look back at that form field and when it says LinkedIn, for example, or if it says a referral source and say that the referral source has a name, let's call it ABC Networking. ABC Networking has the most when it comes to the lead source. So I think that's very valuable data to
Mhm.
work with.
Mm.
when it comes to sales and marketing, because then you know where to shift your efforts to. But I think it's important to ask on a phone call or Zoom, how did you hear about us? Right? Sometimes it's just a client referral and we just don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And then they connected with you months ago on LinkedIn,
Right.
and you think that LinkedIn, was this organic engine for you.
Right. Or we
Although
thought it was.
maybe they saw your content. It's so hard to tell exactly what
We just make
influences.
assumptions. We just make
Yeah,
assumptions.
it is a game of
It was
assumptions
like,
for sure.
they saw my Google ad. I got to put more money into Google ads.
Yeah.
And it was a client referral.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you're awesome, Sam. Thanks again for just joining the show and just providing us some knowledge, some insights when it comes to our industry, which is websites.
You got it, man. Appreciate you having me. And thanks for adding your 2 cents there at the end. I always enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, you have a great day and have a great rest of the week.
Hey, you got it, man. Thank you.